The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. The inner doors to the gym opened a second time, and there stood Alan in his bright red Ace Trainer jacket. With far more reluctance than Marina, he slunk towards them. He was dragging something behind him that had the shape of a gigantic moth, but was so blackened and charred that Gold could determine nothing further. His face was scrunched with the exertion of bearing his load, but when he passed beyond the gates and dropped it, he looked no less burdened. Gold noted that Marina did not shrink from him. "You really have no sense of subtlety, you know that?" grumbled Alan, looking at Gold. "Walking directly into your enemy's territory, screaming for the whole town to hear. The League's gonna be on you in minutes. I've been regretting every choice I made since I first laid eyes on you." "Yeah?" asked Gold, crossing his arms unsympathetically. "And what choice are you regretting now?" "Burning bridges with Koga," replied Alan, jerking his head to indicate at the charred Pokemon on the ground. "By burning his Venomoth. Don't make me regret standing with you now." Gold raised an eyebrow. "You think you stand with us just because you're double-crossing the Johto League? Jinichi's still their prisoner because of you, and Marina almost was too." Alan eyed Marina shrewdly. "She sure didn't waste any time filling you in." "No need. I heard everything last night. You know that Dragonite who chomped Archer's hands to mincemeat? I was hiding right next to him." Gold watched with slight satisfaction as Alan's face went pale at the mention. His throat bobbed, and he struggled to speak. "You were there? How?" "Dragonite took me. I think he somehow learned that the Johto League had overwhelmed and brutalized his master, and he wanted me to heal Lance like I did for him. He was very insistent and lost patience at the end." Gold narrowed his eyes. "It was dark and I couldn't see properly. What did you people do to him?" Alan raised both hands in a gesture of innocence. "I don't know, I swear! Claire almost didn't let me into the gym last night until she saw Marina and Crobat. Then she told me to keep them secure, or she'd feed me to her Gyarados. She didn't let me see Lance or Archer." Gold looked at him closely, trying to discern any falsehood in Alan's face or body language. Alan looked at him nervously. "You still don't believe me?" "Why should I?" asked Gold bluntly. "You could just be stalling me until Koga gets here, as you told him you'd do." He swiped the air with his hand in preemptive denial, even as Alan indignantly motioned to the incapacitated Venomoth he'd scorched with his Charmeleon. "That's hardly a convincing pledge of good faith. You've proven too well your ability to conceal your intentions. No doubt, Crobat's already reached Koga, since he's not here too, smoldering on the ground." Alan tugged his hair in frustration. "What good would that have done? Do you think Claire hasn't already made some phone calls in the time we've been speaking? My Pokemon, trained as they are, could only manage one. What more do you want?" He raised his arms, and, in an utter abandonment of self-control, howled past Gold's shoulder. "I helped the Johto League kidnap a girl! Here she is! And here's the Venomoth that carried her here! I'm sorry I did it! I knew I was never going to be champion, but this was my chance to rise as far as gym leader! It was a near thing, but no! I can't be something that costs my soul! I can't live with it!" Throughout the confession, Alan looked over and past Gold to somewhere behind him. Gold turned to see what he beheld, and felt a shock of bewilderment run through his body. An empty city had slumbered behind him minutes ago. Now, Dozens of people were gathered at every door and window, staring in mute astonishment at the unfolding scene. Anyone not in pajamas or robes sported the same Ace Trainer uniform that Alan wore. All appeared to be regular gym attendees, Alan's colleagues, and all had just borne witness to his divulgence, willing or no. Alan glared back at Gold, and in spite of his brave exterior, a single tear ran down his left cheek. "Do you still think I'm concealing my intentions?" Words failed Gold, despite Alan's prompting. He moved his mouth vainly, then gave Marina a look, pleading for help. "For what it's worth, he looked more like a captive than me," she said, and there was pity in her face and voice. "He kept apologizing for keeping me and asked if there was anything he could do for me. And all my waking hours, I saw him pacing, biting his nails, and whispering harshly to himself." She looked Alan in the face, and he beheld her with all the penitent shame of a beaten dog. Then she spoke, in a voice gentle but firm. "I can't forgive you yet, as long as Jinichi remains in the claws of the Johto League. You took us under your protection, then sold us out." She touched her chest. "But it's in my power, at least, to forgive you for keeping me hostage. I believe you really are sorry, and anyway, you've been punishing yourself non-stop. It's enough." The tightness in Gold's throat seemed to constrict further. "Betrayal is a difficult thing to mend," said Spirit softly. Until now, she had stood passively by, almost forgotten by everyone after their first brief glance. "It will take time, but it can be done if the spirit is willing." Her eyes met Gold's knowingly. "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He understood and breathed easier. Alan, however, did not appear to. His eyes lingered on the woman who stood by Gold's side. "Who are you?" Gold did not properly see what happened next, nor apparently did anyone else. All he knew was that the eyes of Alan Go were suddenly filled with a sheer, childlike wonder, which lit his entire face. The trainer's body went rigid as a board, and then he fell like a dead man stricken. Marina gave a little gasp and bent to check on him before looking up at Gold. "He passed out," she said in disbelief. "What did that?" Marina's back was to Spirit, and though the latter said nothing, Gold saw a subtle smile on her face. He answered elusively, playing along. "I think Alan truly discovered just whose side he's on. In any case, it's the side that allows a conscience to rest. Let's let him be now." Gold turned his attention back to the gated gym before him, where unfinished business lingered. "I still want to know what drives the other side to act, in spite of their guilt." He raised his voice, no longer concerned with all the onlookers behind him, not though they were all members of Blackthorn Gym. "Claire! You still have people I want in there! You know I have the power to expose you for who they are! This is your last chance to say anything for yourself beforehand! Come out!" Before the final phrase had left his lips, there she suddenly was, on an overhead balcony.